Reed Arena where the March of Remembrance is about to start. Come rain or shine, we are going to be marching today in honor of the Holocaust, honoring survivors, honoring rescuers, and remembering those who have perished. So the whole event will take place inside of Reed Arena, and after the event we will do a 2-mile march around campus and back to Reed Arena. And so the rain has slowed down a little bit and it's kind of off and on. But anyway, there's hundreds and hundreds of people here already and we are so excited.
Hi! Oh, good to see you. Hi, baby girl. Is it Ava? Hi, Ava. And Esther. She's in here. Here's baby Esther. Hi, sugar.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. We are so excited to have you at the very first March of Remembrance at Texas A&M. Woo! Thank you for coming here. The first part of our program, we are a group of World War II living historians, and we're going to tell you a little bit about kind of the context of what was going on at the same time as the Holocaust. And everyone represents a different person or a different type of person. Me as the first speaker, I represent the resistance. So that is ordinary people like you and like me who were put in an extraordinary circumstance and made extraordinary choices. And there are so many people that we could go on and on, like Vera Atkins, Virginia Hall, Marlene Dietrich, Violet Savasso. These were people who risked their lives to try to do what they felt was the right thing to do, even when it wasn't what the laws were of their country. There were people in Germany, Poland, the Netherlands, France, Belgium, Denmark, Great Britain, and also people from the US, Czechoslovakia, Norway. There were assassins, there were underground newspapers, there were escape lines, guerrilla tactics, sabotage. They had all kinds of people. Even to me, you know, for me history is really interesting because I sit and think, what would I have done at that time period? And so I also represent housewives. I represent older men who couldn't serve in the military. I represent people who did what they could, whether that meant there were old ladies who would sit and knit and they would record in their stitches what kinds of trains went through a certain station. There were people who would do codes on the inside of jackets. They would make maps. There were people who rescued aviators who had crashed into possessed territory. There were all kinds of things. And of course, people like Corrie ten Boom, who were so instrumental in saving the lives of precious Jewish people in their own homes and even when they themselves faced certain death.
I represent the men of the United States Army Armored Forces. Mark Levin was a private in the 1st Platoon, Company C of the 25th Tank Battalion of the 14th Armored Division.
I represent Molly Weinstein Schaefer. Molly was a first-generation born American Jewish woman. Molly joined as a hospital records technician and medical records specialist and medical intelligence, meaning she was in charge of the medical records of the soldiers as well as knowing the inventory of supplies in the hospitals. Molly was instrumental in planning D-Day. Molly's job was to tell the higher-ups that were in charge of planning D-Day how many men could be put in the hospital without draining resources, how many resources they had in order to be able to storm the beaches and free Europe.
Good morning. I represent the United States Army Air Corps. During World War II, many men and women took to the skies. Everything from fighter escort missions, bombing missions, and anything to help our ground forces halt the advancement of our enemy. Jimmy Stewart was a bomber pilot in World War II.
Wow.
And he also joined about the same time that Clark Gable joined. Clark Gable was a bombardier. They were two of the first actors to join the military. Jimmy Stewart actually made it all the way to a 2-star general before he retired.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I myself represent the U.S. Army Chaplain Corps.
Awesome.
During World War II, these men exemplified that you didn't have to fight, you didn't have to do, well, quite frankly, anything that represented a fight. You could just be there for your soldiers, your sailors, Marines, airmen, just showing the love of God.
Awesome.
I represent those that the Nazis feared the most, those with a voice. As the Nazis gained power, they created the first concentration camp of Dachau. Dachau was used for one purpose, and as its original purpose was to house its political enemies and those that they feared could influence politics within the Reich. Dachau was, in effect, one of the worst concentration camps. By the way, it was where they taught the guards of Auschwitz, Birkenau, and other camps how to punish prisoners and how to kill them. In Dachau, you could find anyone that was what the Nazis feared was a political enemy, whether they were soldiers, veterans, monarchists, communists, Democrats, whatever political domination that the Nazis feared, Dachau housed them.
I'm General George S. Patton, Jr., Commander, 3rd Army. I want to take you back to April 1945. Elements of my forces, 4th Armored Division, was given orders by me to get to Orendorf as quick as possible. These were under orders from General Eisenhower. We had information at the time that Hitler and his entire command staff was moving their operations to that area. We also had information that secrets beyond our expectations could be found there. We knew that the Russians would be handling that area. If we didn't get there, they would get the secrets. So on April the 6th, elements of the 4th Armored Division moved into a small town to a barracks at Orendorf. And they were shocked. As they moved in, the bodies were still warm. Around in a circle, several of the prisoners had been recently shot. The blood was still flowing. What on earth was this place? Who could do this? How in the world could this happen? These were prisoners. They were shot in place. As the 4th Armored Division began to span out, they were immediately caught by some of the prisoners who began to tell their story. They went into these buildings. There was underground bunkers. There was places there that led all the way to the town of Orendorf. There they would find, in that regional area of the Thuringen region of Germany, near Weimar, the labor camp, the sub-labor camp of Orendorf. And these prisoners were worked to death. 800 calories was about all they could get each day, and they worked until they couldn't work them any further. When they were reaching to the point that they could not work any further, they were summarily executed. They were buried. As I began to look into this, they got a hold of me, and they asked me to come. They told me what it was about. Never in the history of any war had I heard of such deprivation. I had to see it for myself. I knew that General Eisenhower would be coming. He was there to be on April the 12th, 1945. So after we let me at the airport, some of the commanding generals of 3rd Army, drove to Orendorff. The stench was horrendous. There was lime on the bodies, not to disintegrate the body, but just keep the smell from getting into your nostrils, as the Germans had just recently put there. We went to see what else we could see in the camp. There was a railroad tracks that were put there. And bodies had been hastily exhumed and put them on this railroad track and start a fire. And they tried to burn these bodies. But the arms and legs were still there, aiming out the side. I want you to repeat after me. Never!
Never.
This was the first of any of the concentration camps that had been known to the Americans. We were in some way aware that they were there, but we had no idea. So I asked my Signal Corps, as these photographs that you're seeing behind you, to come. And I wanted them to take pictures and take moving videos of it, every bit of it, not miss a thing. I wanted them to interview the inmates. I wanted the world to know what had happened. Then I asked General Eisenhower if he could make it so theater-wide. He knew that this had to happen. So from that moment on, every single concentration camp, every death camp, every horror camp, which is a good name for it, was filmed. And photographs were taken. Because we knew that someday in the future, someone would deny this. They would say it never happened. Well, it did. And Patton decided that there was going to be a whole group of folks come see it, theater-wide. They were going to open these concentration camps up to the public and the general people who lived around there. Never!
Never!
And there they went. Each one of them. The mayor of the town saw it. They went home humming themselves. Think about it. Something so grievous, so terrible. And this was just the tip of a huge cancer. Then Buchenwald was brought to my attention. I knew what to expect. We sent as many troops as we could. We sent as many medical doctors as we could. We did all that we could. 2,000 people had been killed just recently there. They'd been worked to death. And those that didn't die quickly, they had a potato smasher, they called it. A big club, and they bashed their brains in. The horror was even further than that. I'm going to be delicate what I'm about to say, but I want you to hear it, because it should not ever be forgotten. There were 3 women who had their time on a monthly period, and it was noticed by the guards. They dipped the pads in gasoline, lit them with fire. It took them about a week to die. There were shrunken heads. There was tattoos on the sides taken from the prisoners, put on lampshades and banners. Imagine, think. Never!
Never!
So it became very important that all this be documented. Who was there? What did they do? Who had the orders? What was this final solution all about? So when the Nazi bastards were brought to trial in Nuremberg, they were pretty cocky. Oh, we were under orders. We didn't do this. We didn't do that. Oh, we didn't know about that. Then for a solid day, we played all the photographs, the moving pictures. If they didn't know about it, they did then. And after World War II was over, a cry came out. Never, never, never again. So we're going to repeat that. Never, never, never again. One more time.